Hello and welcome back to my channel. As per usual, there's not really script with this. For record, this is a new PC, meaning new setup. For example, for the titles, I can do this. Forget how long the delay is. And then for our glitches, I can do this. And then lastly, for my Hightail creator code, which you can use at Hightail checkout, I can do this. Now, why this video and why today? Over 90 days from the last video and over, I want to say, a year since the last, proper video. Well, I kind of just wanted to say that I'm out of school for summer, though I still have coursework, so I have more time to myself. That doesn't mean there's going to be more videos per se, but you might see one or two, maybe. But it's likely going to be things like dev streams and stuff. I am going to drop that and switch over here. I didn't launch Discord yet. I am so sorry. This is why my videos end up being an hour long, and then I don't edit them because I don't want to edit an hour-long video. Because I forget to update things and open things and stuff before I start recording. I'm sorry if this isn't the most, entertaining thing ever. Actually, while I'm at it, let's see, can I get you guys some music in the background? As I should have something lying around somewhere. Actually, if that's the one I'm thinking of, that might be better. That's on monitor and output. I'm sorry, that's really loud. Not monitor and output, that's on output. Here's the thing. There's the one. No, that is not the same track I was thinking of. But it's something at least. Let's make sure that's below my voice. Let's go with here. I want to say here's good. If this microphone would actually focus on my voice, that'd be great. All right. So, ignoring the group chats and stuff, I dropped this post in my Discord, basically trying to explain where I've been. Probably not to the best extent because it's toward the Discord community that pretty much no one's in. Which you can join. There should be a valid link in the description. If that is invalid, let me know and I can send you the proper link. Actually, while I'm at it, invite link right here. Feel free to join if you wish. Just don't follow the rules. All right. So, basically, number one thing is I have schoolwork, which is what's been killing most of my time recently. I've been dealing with catching up with eSchool based systems such as Amateral and FLVS. That's not as much of a dogs because my state's out there if you really look hard enough. But yeah, the main thing is that I'm working through German. I'm currently 9 weeks behind in segment 1, and then I have another, I believe, 18 weeks for segment 2. Shouldn't be that bad of a catch up. The next thing is that I'm going to be working on a game with a fellow called Yarbs Tasker. You can find them over on LinkedIn. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Chaos here. My IRL name is there because LinkedIn likes IRL names. Although I really want to change that because it keeps calling me the name that I don't want to be called when mentioned. But yeah, I'm gonna be working on a game. I did put together a little project via RenPy. Which, fuck it, I'll show if I can get to it. I'm sorry if this is like tangenty or something. I don't know. I'm trying to at least have commentary so that you're not bored as fuck. If you can't tell, I have changed. Come on, RenPy, open. Thank you. All right, so I have this test project, and when I hit launch project, it goes here. This is art that I made exclusively for the test project. And one of the main things that I worked on was putting together a keybind rebinding system. For example, if I click here, it pops up with a rebind menu. I can hit, for example, up, and then that will not apply until I hit return here. And we can see that in action right here. If I hit enter, that does nothing. If I hit the up arrow, that does something. And yes, I did put together a thing to make sprites blink and speak as they talk. Let's just put in a random name. Let's go with that. And then as you can see, Chaos's model talks. Of course, this is like a temp background and stuff because it's a test project. And then I also put together an updated about section. Preferences. Fun fact, you can hit Shift A for this system, which is meant to help with accessibility for people that have dyslexia or need text scaling or spacing different or kerning or high contrast text or text to speech, audio, etc. It's not really mentioned anywhere, but it does exist. And then I also put together a thing to sync controls with the rebinds as well. And also included the Shift A in the settings, and then you'll also find it in here. And yes, this does exist under the sidebar for both the menu and the settings, and then it also shows up in the help menu. But yeah, that's really it for that front. That might get updated a bit more as I go through testing stuff for another project. And or if I need to test stuff for Yarb's project, which here's a hint at what it is that is pretty much known. It is aimed at being a game made for a change in terms of accessibility. And then this one is probably not the case anymore, but I was basically saying that I might have a job over the summer that might kill up more of my time, but I don't think that's a great idea right now because of, the heaping pile of schoolwork. And then I'm also going to actually be picking up Back to the Reimagining. Hopefully, I should be. Might need some nudges. For record, Act 2 The Reimagining is a game that I announced that I was making 3 years ago. This game is basically a reimagining of Inscription's Act 2 into a new lens, which is going to be way fucking longer. And by longer, I mean, I want to say over 20 to 60 hours of content for the first playthrough. I won't spoil anything further than that if you want to have more info, just feel free to DM. If I disable streamer mode, you can contact me here. Or via LinkedIn or via Instagram. Yes, I have an Instagram now. Or you can technically contact via Twitch. You can also like leave a comment. Molly, do note I'm probably not gonna spoil things there. And then the last part of the announcement was basically me addressing the fact that we haven't really been streaming. Although that's more so Chaos addressing that. But yeah. More than likely case is that streaming is gonna be pretty much exclusively dab streams versus other stuff. Anyways, let me go utilize my Shift H powers. And we're going to change that out for that. Alright, so you may be wondering what this is. This is a site that I started in April. It's been a while since. Basically, it is a site called STOATGAMES, in which is aimed to be a documentation site. Also sorry for the epilepsy. We'll at some point have a way to tame this beast so it doesn't go flashing. For record, our table of contents scrolls with you so that you can easily reference other parts as you wish. The system also has a nice little header system which tells you a brief what is the section going to be before you dive in, just in case it's not what you're after. We also have a search system. For example, if you wanted to look for a certain author, you could type that in, and then it tells you where that's listed, or tries to anyway. Because our search system is not the best right now, I really need someone with expertise on PHP to actually get our search system to work the way our search system is meant to work. And I did my best to make it feel thematic. So instead of the normal, like, open this page, you have a load file button. You can also go to author archives as well. Just do know these are going to be bare bones if the author links work. For some reason, they don't want to work. I don't know why. It's probably OBS. Let me go do us a favor with the magic of our Shift H powers. Wham! So now this is on the actual live site. Yeah, you can tell because it's a bit smoother to look at, more than likely. Oh yeah, we also put in a nice little code block system with rounded edges in a way that looks nice. We did our best not to make the words strain your eyes, so it's a bit more presentable. And also, things usually should not be bold, because the bolding kind of deflates the readability and stuff. But yeah, this is the homepage. We also have this massive footer, which you might have seen before, which covers quick navigations to our subsidiary sites. I'll get to that in a second. It also links out to our policies and attributions. It also links out to things like our site tools and crawlers. For example, our LLMs files, the robots, the sitemaps, and then just ways to contact us. Yes, this is a real phone number. I will only allow you to text. If you call, you will be blocked or ignored. And then you can also contact me via these emails. You can join the community Discord, which will link you over to here. This one. Which, yikes, I gotta update this. This one's kind of onto the back plate because it's only been me here so far. But we've been doing our best to keep this updated. For example, we have a GitHub updates channel, which keeps track of all GitHub updates related to certain projects so that you don't have to go tracing through GitHub yourself to find them. We also had a donations channel. I'm not sure if this is properly hooked to anything. I think this was us trying to set this up for Open Collective or something. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, that's what it was. But there's no Open Collective. I don't know why this exists, so I am going to just kill that. We also have the same setup for our other projects, which needs a little updating. If not apparent by the fact that all the Java stuff is not here, and all the Java repositories are not on my GitHub. The GitHub is really outdated. And then similar for Texture Replacer, which is an inscription mod. And then we also have an announcement channel, which this will probably get moved to the site itself. Most of this is probably going to be on the site. Anyways, next to privacy policy. This page pretty much outlines every single privacy policy for any of our related content. We don't have one for our site directly because we don't need one yet. And we don't store IPs or stuff, last I checked, unless some plugin is secretly doing that in the background when it should not be. And if they are, report it to us so that we can kill the plugin. And it does mention to contact the STOATGAMES.icu email. That email is found here. And then it also covers the WordPress privacy policy. This is copy paste from WordPress's recommended stuff. Might be a little outdated at some point, but we try to keep this stuff updated. And then there's also the default, really simple security one. Again, we don't track IPs. We also have policies for the plugins on our site. For example, advanced custom fields can be found right here. And then they also, in this case, have an article on GDPR. And then Astra Pro custom fonts, duplicate content, add-on for polylink, and so on. Some of these have configurations at our end showing how we have configured the item for usage on our site. That way we can make sure GDPR is complied with to the best of our ability. For example, here it's mentioning how KP Agent Ready is utilized on our site. For example, to say that while indexing and reg input are permitted, we do not permit training. We also have polylink for translations. I'll get to that in a minute. We have redirection, which is basically a thing to say, oh, did you mistype your link? Let's fix that with an automatic redirect to bring you back to the page you meant to be on. It does add to our backend, so we delete them from time to time. We also have covers for relevancy, which is our search system that's meant to make our search work properly. Yet, for whatever the fuck reason, it does not work properly. Properly in the sense that it's supposed to cover all of our post types, yet it only covers page because query block doesn't want to do its job. And no one has made a query block that works directly with the search systems of relevancy or the other plugin we have, which is advanced query block, which is also supposed to do the same thing, yet it doesn't. If you can't tell, that one really annoys me. We also have a system for our web consoles that are active on the site. For example, Ahrefs, Bing Webmaster, Google Search, Pinterest, and Yandex Webmaster. This one is the least up to date. I might honestly remove it because I can't do much with it. But these two are for site discoverability. This one was just kind of listed in Yoast SEO, so figured what, might as well set that up too. It's probably so that our images get put onto Pinterest so that we have more discoverability, if I was to guess. And then Yandex does the same thing we're using with these two, but I haven't really updated this one enough. And then that's mainly to post their privacy policies in the sense of your data might be tracked by these consoles indirectly by using their services, so may as well put that on the front page just so that you are aware they're doing that. We also have a attributions page. They're kind of a unique thing to us because most sites don't do this from my knowledge. Again, we have the link to the STOATGAMES.icu email, which again is down here in our contact right here. This page is basically just covering, oh hey, this person externally made this that we use on this site. So if you want that tool, go contact that person. For example, we list the fonts that we use, being Marksman, Inscription by some picks, or otherwise known as Ivano, or EV some picks. I don't know when they had comments to this, but neat. And then we also have the other font on our site being DB Comic by Codeband38 as used in Pony Island by Danny Mullins Games. Which links to the 1001 fonts listing because I didn't know which listing to really link to in that case. But if you want either of those fonts for your own stuff, go there. And then we also have a Smart Quotes fix, which basically is aimed at making our apostrophes, I believe they're called, not smart. E.g., it prevents it from doing this stupid thing where it doesn't want to match the font. And then it also credits the art where credits due, for example, the So Games logo. By the way, you can click on it to go back to the homepage. And the banner, which has a little epilepsy on it. So I'll try not to hover over that too much. And yes, it does shake. It's a beast. And then we also credit our backend. Our original backend and front end is from a group called the Free Website Guys. You can find them here via this link if you wish to support us. Use this link. It helps pay off our website's hosting, which right now I have to pay all by myself and I don't have a job yet. Which is around, I want to say, $156 for hosting alone. So, yeah. And the site is mostly built by me. And then we also have the hosting listed. You can also go here, which will bring you to a Iona support for that specific system, which basically acts as a referral link if you follow through and buy Ionas. Fun fact, you can do that yourself as well. I believe they pay you around like 130 or something like that. It pays most of the website hosting if someone does follow through with that. So yeah. And then we also credit the site template that was used in our testing, which for reference is this here. which uses Elementor, which honestly is not the greatest compared to Astro Pro Site Editor, which looks like this. You might have seen it if you looked at the right time. But yeah, as you can tell, things have changed a lot since. We also have the additional CSS listed, which links to another page of our site I'll show in a minute. We also have the page layout templatization mentioned. Basically, all of our pages have a template that will be reused for every page of the same type. We also have the sitemaps listed, which come from STOATGAMES.icu. You can find them here. Or you're supposed to anyway. I don't know why that decided not to let you go there. That's not supposed to be the case. There it is. I'm gonna guess that was a dash. Yeah, that was a dash instead of an underscore. That's what did it. But yeah, you can go here. This gives you a master list of all our pages. So that if you wanted to, for example, let's say a license of ours, you can go here and then go here and then wham, you're on the license. And then you can also find our full LLMs generated by KP Agent ready, not AI generated. This is basically a thing to tell AIs that, oh, hey, these pages exist and you should reference them when referencing our website. That way, your information is accurate. We also have a full version of that, which takes about 1,000-word quote from each page and puts it on there. It's gonna eventually be a really long file. This is meant for AI ingestion, not human ingestion. And then we also link to every single plugin that's used on our site. There is currently 24 of them. Over time, I'm sure that'll grow if we don't simplify things into our own code to do the same thing. Next up, our license repository. Another one of a kind to our site. Basically, we host custom licenses because we just feel bored sometimes and decide to make them. For example, CISO Libraries License 1.0.0, CISO Libraries License 1.1.0, Zaxby Mod License 1.0.0, and Zaxby Mod License 2.0.0. And then if you were to hit on one of these, you can go to that license, which gives you the full license text over here in a more readable format. And then if you wanted to copy that, you can hit the copy button right here, and that will take it to your clipboard like so. And then we also have a table of contents here. If someone is able, I would love to have the table of contents reference the actual page. But that way, things like key terms and founder can also be within the table of contents. The reason why this fails most of the time is because this is set up in a markdown document, which is rendered by WordPress after the table of contents is set up, so table of contents doesn't render it. We also have the CSIL Libraries License 1.1.0, which is basically a more advanced version of that license. You can find them all under STOATGAMES.icu/license repository /licenses if you want the archive itself. For example, you can do this, which takes you to a query block with all the licenses on it. Which, yes, the archive system is basically our search system right now. Because our search system doesn't want to work. And then this is the Zaxby Mod License 1.0.0. This is basically MIT, but you cannot just make alterations and publish our code. in the sense of needless ones, such as the stripping of comments or removal of variables that don't actually affect the code. And then the 2.0.0, on the other hand, essentially is a full ass OS in legal text form. I really want to see someone evaluate this at some point. Just the only thing that's missing is the fundamental rights which the license covers by default, which is what these sections are for right here. Everything else is there for the OS part, but not the core rights in which the OS operates on. That's why it's marked as unfinished. But if you want to put those rights in yourself, you can technically use it. We try to make sure it can be legally followed to the best of our ability. Can't guarantee it'll always rule the same because we have conditions for that. I don't know why our apostrophes are fucked, but that should go to a normal apostrophe. If that doesn't, and hashtag 039 semicolon is an apostrophe. We also have a table of contents mainly for the purpose of making sure that legal people know how each word works. For example, the headers, italics, bold, and bold italics, because those are referenced in our definitions and stuff. So it's probably useful to actually make sure those are listed. And then next up, we have the subsidiaries. These are basically sub-organizations under the website, which have their own website, which I'll show you in just a second. I just need to show one thing before I do that, which is the additional CSS file, which is found here. This page is basically just, oh, hey, here's our CSS. You can use it on your own site, but you must credit us. But yeah, now we can go into the subsidiaries. And you may be wondering why Stoat Games is on here twice. That's because this is a sub website for actual Stoat Games, the company. That is also by the same people that are making the website. Basically, Stoat Games, the website, acts as your holding firm, and the subsidiaries are the companies under the holding firm. Also, we do have a note about the epilepsy, the construction, and the fact you can scroll down just in case you didn't realize you can scroll down. Anyways, unique thing about our sub websites, they have their own headers. And additionally, their own footers with their own socials, contacts, etc. Even their own licenses. And also, additionally, their own copyright. That way, the organization's copyright is under their organization as well as our websites. Fun fact, organizations outside of our company can also put their websites on here. Just note that any subsidiary that ends up on here will be copyrighted under our website for its website content. And then we also have our projects that you can click on. For example, you can go to Cecil and Utils, which takes you to, guess what? Another subsite, but this time for a project, which lists all its versions. This does not have a footer directly, and this page might break as a heads up because of this little bitch here, because this requires GitHub. Not everyone likes GitHub, so sometimes this asset just doesn't exist. And also the table content sidebar doesn't like it right now. Probably because we have this set to auto or something like that. Don't know. But then you can hit the versions. And if you were to pay attention to the URL, we have a pattern. Subsidiaries, our subsidiary. Projects, our project. Versions, our version. This carries on throughout the cycle. And then guess what? The version extends the original header. So there's more information for you to digest. For example, in this case, the net frameworks in which the project supports with its own color coding. That way you can tell what is properly supported and what is not fully supported but may be compatible. And then you have your project files, which is all files which are related to the given project. Note they might not be all the same on all projects, because some might not need documentation, for example, or a change log or license. But it will be a somewhat consistent layout where it's 3 in a row, and then we start another row of 3 or so. We don't have a way to truly censor these right now, so it has to be in increments of 3. We'll probably fix that at some point. Sorry for the epilepsy. I keep putting the middle. I keep putting the cursor in the middle. We do seriously need a setting for that. But anyways, the project site goes over pretty much the same thing. And as you can see, the caching broke again. That means the table content stops working. We really need to fix for that. It keeps happening. Our best fix is to recache the site when that happens. But yeah, it basically goes over the same thing that the project site goes over, but version specific. For example, the version might not use the same system. So here it uses read-only strings instead of the read-only list of strings in the modern versions of the library. This is mainly so you have accurate information for the given version. And then you have your documentation, which takes you to file/file, which looks something like this. Good to know that all the table constants are broken while I'm trying to showcase this. That's lovely. But yeah, you can go here and then you can go to C# documentation. For the C# documentation, note the URL gets longer and you have a languages/language now. There's also going to be a sector/sector and a documentation/documentation, which is as far as the nesting should ever go. And then you can also click this to go back to the language switcher so that you can choose the language you're after, just in case there's multiple languages that you can choose from. For example, CSL Libraries is trying to go native AOT, which means they might have a Java documentation and C++ documentation that you can reference. And then these will link out to all sections available. These sections will also be shown in this sidebar because they are more than likely going to be long and a lot. But they won't show on the section selector because that's going to be a selector where you choose your sections that you're after. And if you didn't notice, it also has its own footer, which links back to its own files, including the license, in the form of click me for the fully legally mandated license for this version. It also tells you what licenses the project is under directly in case you want to use those licenses for yourself without having to edit the license that is on the project. And then you also have the change log, which isn't going to be the most useful for your 1.0.0s, but it will be useful for your later versions, such as, let's see, 3.0.0 Native AOT Edition. And then the table of contents is here so that you can choose the version you're after. So see the changes directly there. And then next up, we have the attributions, which basically covers all crediting related to the given project and its version. Fun fact, the organization has one of these too. In this case, it covers where you can contact in case the attributions are not correct, which for CSL Libraries is the CSL Libraries gmail.com. Or if you're not comfortable emailing a Gmail for support, you can contact the STOATGAMES.icu and they will direct it to them. Totally not, because we're the same person right now building all of these. And then it also gives you a key for your attributions, which is on every attribution page because it's templatized once more. In this case, it covers where code came from. Right now, it's pretty much all from me. I may be a masochist and like coding. And then where all the documentation comes from. For this case, there is a code-based documentation in the form of XML comments. There's the site-based documentation, which is on the website itself. There's the README-based documentation, which is in the package's README. There's the GitHub Wiki documentation, which is on the GitHub Wiki system. And then there's the NuGet documentation, which is shown on the NuGet package. Yes, there's a lot of documentation forms. Most of these are the same, except the site-based. And then we had the reference guides we referenced. Not reference guides, researched guides. Which links out to where certain things come from. For example, the original ANSI lists that were referenced in creation of this project come from this gist from Rabadabadoba, sorry, which is a C definition for all basic ANSI codes, which over time we've turned that into a C# list system, which we've mentioned a couple times in here, including the library itself. And then, additionally, we also referenced a bunch more for the actual library itself from another gist from FNKY. No, we did not hijack that gist, which basically goes over everything else related to your ANSI codes. For example, the types of escape codes that are available, your sequences, the general ANSI codes, because ANSI does not just cover colors. Fun fact. Your cursor controls, because you can, in fact, control the cursor via ANSI as well. Your erase functions for clearing screens and stuff. Your colors and graphics. This is one of the main things to reference. We had most of this from the previous set, but we did find some of this ourselves as well. We also found this, which allows us to reset our bulletin and italics properly. And then it also covers the base 16 colors, which we had from the other gist, as well as the high intensity, which we also had from the other gist. And then the new thing is that it covers 256 colors and RGB colors. It also covers a bunch more that, if you're interested, you can go check out here on your own time. All right, next up, we have the downloads. This is not directly download stuff from our site because files are too heavy, but the download system will link you out to all downloads. For example, with version 1.0.0, it's the NuGet packages download, which links to the download page, which, fun fact, is at download/download. And from there, it gives you a neotypical download system, which tells you when it was last updated. And you can press this to go and download it directly from, in this case, NuGet.org, which requires NuGet.org to not be blocked by your stupid IT. Sorry, it's IT people, but sometimes your blocks are, in fact, stupid. Then you have your statistics file, which basically covers basic statistics related to that version of the project. And then what else was there? I feel like there was something else. Oh yeah, the robots. Basically with robots, we are telling it to recognize our content signals, and also referencing EU directives on that to try and get this enforced. This comes from Cloudflare directly for their content signal system for the most part. And then this is just some stuff to try and get AIs to use everything right so that they can actually reference their stuff right. But these are not standard, so they are probably not using them directly, at least at the minute. And then we also disallow our backend, for example, the admin systems, from being used by crawlers. Then we also reference the site map and such here. This one is not standard though. Fuck. And then to go along with the site, we have LinkedIn, which I'm logged in, so this might go to the admin page. So we're gonna real quickly hit view as member. This will take you here. You usually do not need this question mark view as member here. But this will take you to the company page where you can see who works there uh, and other things related to it, as well as all of the posts, which you can hit show all posts to go to the list of posts. Through the system, you can also find jobs available related to it and the people. Which, yes, my profile is public, and yes, it has a shitty photo. I'm aware how bad it looks. And then your CISA libraries also has the system, which is currently where you can find most updates related to CISA libraries. He's a kind of am fond of LinkedIn for some reason. I don't know why. You can find the jobs, you can find the people, you can find some about, which reference to sites such as their subsite. Lastly, you have your CISA libraries, which goes over where you can find their content. For example, GitHub, GitGay, LinkedIn, Community Discord, which links to the same one because we both share a system. It also links to their Nougat and their STOATGAMES page. It also links their email and to the text number and also to their attributions page, which you can find here. I just realized we never covered the actual mandated license. So let's go do that real quick. Also, for reference, these two link to GitHub because we don't have that set up yet. Because we're working on this first. But yeah, you can go here, and then you can go here, and then the fourth option is the license, which covers the gloriously long license associated with the thing that keeps us legally mandated. In this case, CISA Libraries License 1.0.0 and the ZAXP Mod License 1.0.0. You can also copy the whole license if you wanted for your own forks and stuff, or your extensions, because extensions are covered by the same system. But yeah, that's really it for what I have to show off for that. Is there anything else mentioned in that announcement? Oh yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them in the comment description or in the Discord or anywhere else you can reach me. But yeah, that is where I've been. And that's what I'm going to be up to over summer. And what I've been working on. Mind you, I did not show everything I've been working on because there is way too much to show off in one video. You can find that out on your own time. When I get around to publishing, for example, the writing assignment, which is around 2,300 words worth, and acts as a horror fiction thing related to transgenders. Not in a bad way. But yeah, basically I did a lot of stuff. A good chunk of that within the last month. On top of the homework that I've been catching up on. And then we hope the mic's been picking up. Okay, good. Anyways, that's about all I have for you right now. I don't think I have an end screen anywhere, so this'll just have to do. Feel free to join the Discord at discord.gg/xf4qvjy5aj in order to get in direct contact with me for anything that you want, or just hang out and stuff, because it is a friend zone server as well. If you know me IRL, you can join too. I don't know why you'd be here if you know me IRL, but hey, just in case. Anyways, peace.